You're watching NewsX. From air to roads and railways, there has been a mega connectivity boost in India under the aegis of the multi-ministry Gati Shakti Yojana. The railways has received a major facelift with the 10 Vande Bharat routes which have been inaugurated till now. The Prime Minister yesterday unveiled the two latest routes from Mumbai to Solapur and Mumbai to Shirdi. The expressway network in India too has been developing at a rapid pace. On Sunday, Prime Minister Modi will unveil a section of the Delhi-Mumbai highway which will reduce the travel time between Delhi and Jaipur to 3.5 hours. In this broadcast, we discuss the changing face of India, the connectivity boost, and how this will also contribute to economic growth and uniform development. Joining us on the show at this point in time is noted economist Dr. Sharad Kohli. Also with us on the show is Mr. Pranay Agarwal, political analyst. Rajalakshmi Joshi, political analyst, also joins us on the show. And last but not the least, Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, with us on the platform as well. Dr. Kohli, I'd like to begin with you. Well, they say the reason why the Americans were able to take over the world in such a short span of time was because of the fact that they worked on their internal transportation mechanisms and hygiene. The road network, the railway network is what led to the economic boom in America in the early 20s before the Depression happened. And that same trend is also being witnessed in India thereof right now as well. Your thoughts on this rapid pace with which the Indian infrastructure is being modernized?
Well, you set the right tone, Vineet, by giving the American example for that matter. And I think we are heading in that direction. The next decade, for this very reason, is going to be India's decade. That is, once we'll be ready with all these road infrastructure, we'll be ready with highways, our railways will be modernized. We would have airport connectivity, we would have all the logistics support which the country needs to move forward. My only regret is, although they say that you should be happy with what you're getting, my only regret is, I wish that this had happened in the earlier governments also. I'm talking prior to 2014. I wish this was taken at that time. Instead of, that Nara of Garibi Hatao, it was Garib Hatao. So I wish if it was done at that time, imagine if all these initiatives were done 20 years ago by the former government. You can imagine where we have reached by today. But anyway, as they say, never so late. And I think it's a wonderful step. You cannot even imagine as an economist, I can analyze and dissect this to just go on and on in telling you what are the merits and what are the advantages of doing this. Every 1 rupee, Vineet, spent on infrastructure has got an 8 times multiplier effect. 8 times. You make a single road, you give 8 times benefit. Take, for example, I've given this example earlier also on NewsX many weeks ago, but I don't mind citing it again. For example, you're sitting in New Delhi. Take, for example, the Dwarka Expressway. Now, there used to be nothing there. Today, Dwarka Expressway, if you get a chance, you drive, although it's not complete, not fully functional yet, but hundreds and hundreds of crores of real estate development has come. Take, for example, the Yamuna Expressway, closer to Noida, linking Noida, Greater Noida, and the new airport, the Jewar Airport coming up. Thousands of crores of real estate deals, hundreds of crores of apartments, markets, malls, airports, film city being built. You can imagine the number of people getting employment in those areas. So if somebody says, "Ke sahab, berozgari ke liye kya hua?" The usual nara which is given, what is being done for unemployment? I think they need to go back to school and study basic economics. That when you construct, when you improve your transportation, when you build roads, when you build bridges, when you build ports, when you build airports, when you modernize your railways, you are providing the perfect platform for private investment to happen. You are providing a perfect platform for direct employment to happen via these projects itself. You are providing a direct development model to the country to take the country to the next level, $5 trillion. I think now for me, $5 trillion economy is a very, very near distant goal. For me, $5 trillion economy should not even be spoken. We should be talking about 10 trillion economy. See, the UP Investor Summit happened, Vineet, yesterday. UP is at 20 lakh crore, economy right now. $1 trillion economy is the dream for UK or UP, which is 4 times the, it needs 26% growth to be able to reach 1 trillion, which is about 82 lakh crore rupees. Now, if for UP we can set a 4 times goal, I think we should extrapolate that and do the same at the national level also. We should not no more talk of 5 trillion. We should at least be talking of 10 trillion. I think nothing better can happen as an economist, I can tell you, Vineet, with full conviction. Over to you.
Right, absolutely. Good points there. Gautam Mukherjee, this is obviously a step in the right direction, but it was a step that was taken earlier on. But the bigger question is, had this step been taken at the right time, which was perhaps 40, 50 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Well, we began with socialism. It was fashionable at the time when we became independent. All the former colonial countries were socialist. Many of them stayed there and are in a deep pit of poverty and despair and chaos as a consequence. We would have not gotten out of it except for the fact that we went bankrupt and were forced to change track in 91. Once that happened, and using the World Bank as a, if you like, excuse, P.V. Narasimha Rao did a masterful job of unshackling the economy. But it's still, it's like people who've been in prison for a long time. You open the door, they don't quite know whether it is okay to walk out and whether they can walk at all and that sort of thing. So it took a long time for the momentum to build. Today, 30 years later, the momentum has built to more or less the second stage of reforms and the great leap forward, where the aspiration is that we will become, without a doubt, a developed country. When we talk of $10 trillion or more, we talk of becoming the third biggest economy. All of this was a pipe dream a few years ago. If people said it, you would have to ask for some kind of mental help for the people who did say it. But now this is the case. So socialism was to blame. Socialism has never delivered anywhere. Communism has never delivered anywhere. But an authoritarian capitalism, as in China, is not quite communism. It's communism when it suits them and capitalism otherwise. So at last we have come to a sort of a proper mixed economy where there's a great deal of welfare. At the same time, you're doing everything to catalyze the growth of the economy by providing facilities that then ignite the entrepreneurship of the people. Now, this is essential because as the time goes on and given the size of our population, to provide those old Sarkari style jobs where 5 people fix a light bulb is not only unproductive, it is more or less impossible. So you've got 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 40 lakh people coming almost on a monthly basis into the workforce. And the only way that they can get gainfully employed is if they help themselves. Now, what the government is doing is making it possible for them to help themselves with logistics and infrastructure support. Apart from all of this, the one thing that has to be understood is, ever since the Modi government came in 2014, the private sector, which was basically a creature of the previous governments, were reluctant to invest. They were worried about whether they would, do well under this regime. And so the government bypassed all this and just went in for massive infrastructure development, which even though COVID took a dip, has provided very healthy growth and will continue to do so for a decade to come. Vinny.
Absolutely. Pranay Agarwal, important to understand that the infrastructure push, which was also propelled and mentioned in the recent budget, is a short way of increasing the GDP figures, the 5 trillion figure that we are looking after, we are chasing after, and this is all a calculated effort which is eventually paying off.
Yes, Vineet. So the way I interpret this is that the budget emphasis on infrastructure construction, right? It has come not a day too soon. When it comes to road infrastructure particularly, it's not just about, ease of travel or improved connectivity, but please appreciate it also generates employment and creates overall prosperity, right? So it boosts industry in the whole region. Uh, leads to new avenues for investments in the region. And please understand, one of my respected co-panelists mentioned about, the social welfare Nehruvian mindset, which we have given up. But even for welfare measures, one does require revenue generation, which comes with economic growth. So the infrastructure push that is being given by the current government, it is expected to significantly promote growth in the whole region. Imagine from Delhi to Mumbai, it's a very long stretch. And I must commend the, somewhat in the shadows, Minister Gadkari, right? He is the man, he is the guy who's piloting this whole thing, of course, under Modi's leadership. Now, Gadkari has set a very ambitious target of constructing 60-kilometer highways per day. And please appreciate, even when we were doing our best, okay, we were at about half of this, right? And so it will require a significant change in the mindset and the, speed of the bureaucracy. There are many difficulties engaged in road construction projects, whether it depends on the terrain, land acquisition is an issue, administrative bottlenecks need to be reduced, you need state and center coordination on many things. And of course, a huge investment is required for these large-scale projects, right? And Gadkari ji, he has publicly stated that by 2024, Indian roads will be better than American roads, right? If the government is able to achieve anything near that, it will be a significant, I remember one American president, former President John F. Kennedy, he had once said that American roads are not good because America is rich. But America is rich because American roads are good. So that is the kind of, central role that the role that the good infrastructure plays in the development of a country. Earlier governments also, of course, launched many projects, but the issue was that many of these projects were delayed, not just by some months or years, but by decades. And that led to a huge wastage of public money, right? And when we undertake this kind of a push of infrastructure development, Vineet, we need to also address concerns which will arise, whether it is concerns for environmental protection, because it also will be a source of increased vehicular pollution and construction debris, right? So alongside infrastructure push, we also need to ensure, and where the government has been slightly lacking, a shift towards, say, electric cars and more, greener fuels, bio CNG, CNG, etc. Vineet.
Absolutely. Rajalakshmi, Pranay raises a very important point. We are talking about the advancement, we are talking about the progress, but at the same time, this has to be matched up with responsibility as well. India perhaps has, the least amount of electric cars today in the entire world, and that is something which the government is hell-bent on changing, but, the pace is perhaps a little slow.
Good evening, Vineet, and thank you for taking this up, because this is something that obviously this is going to push, this issue is going to push India much forward, hopefully. And very rightly, Pranay ji has raised this issue of using cleaner fuels and, going green. So, what I just want to point out is Mr. Nitin Gadkari is somebody who has always been in the, he's been a front runner for sustainability. Now, I have myself been a part of, some events where we have actually promoted sustainability, and he has always been a huge supporter. So he has always been looking for sustainable materials, even in the construction of roads and even, this planting of trees by the side of the expressways, etc. So he does have this sensitivity towards going green and towards sustainability. So sustainability is not just about planting trees, but it incorporates a whole lot of things. Now, there have been some great points put across by Dr. Sharad Kohli and by Mr. Mukherjee also. So, this entire shift in this process, actually, if you see that there is this great vision where PM Modi ji, he has been talking about this Gati Shakti, which is not just about expressways or about metros or about Vande Bharat trains. It's about bringing together 16 ministries. And this, I think, was completely lacking. This vision was completely lacking because, every time whenever a road was to be laid or some infrastructure work was to be done, that road was, no, after that work is done, some other department comes and digs up the road, and one service after the other is taken up, and there was a complete lack of coordination. That has been the story all over the country all these years. So this, I think, this thing of putting together all the ministries, 16 ministries have been brought together, including railways and roadways, and even they have brought together some clusters like textile clusters, pharmaceutical clusters, ports, and all these things have been brought together so that they can work comprehensively. They can put together everything, and there is a digital mapping. So all of them, even all the states, they put together all of these data on, they map it digitally so that everyone is aware of what exactly is happening, and they have all the data immediately at the fingertips. So that is making a huge difference in making sure that there is no wastage of time and material and resources. And again, it also creates so many jobs. And even for as a small example, even something like this Delhi Mumbai expressway, now this small section that is to be inaugurated, that is going to cause a difference of 1.5 hours between Delhi and Jaipur. So something that was taking say 5 hours, if you can reduce it to 3.5 hours, just imagine there is a huge difference in the kind of pollution that is caused, due to the travel, and even in the precious travel time. And again, another thing that Gadkari ji was speaking about, over the years is the progress of a country is not when people are able to use rich cars, but then when even rich people are able to use public transport, and that too comfortably. That, I think, is a big shift. So that shows a progressive nation. So when you have good roads and public transport that can be used by a whole large section of people, not just by people who can't afford cars, I think that will make a complete change in attitude. So this is not just about adding a few roads or adding a few expressways or adding a few trains every year. It's about a complete shift in this attitude where you make sure that everything, there is this holistic approach. That, I think, is the beauty of this thing of Gati Shakti. So and it also involves satellites. It always also involves ISRO. It involves a whole lot of things, even defense. So this infrastructure along the LAC and the LOC that I always have been telling you about, that has also been completely ignored all these years. So this complete shift in infrastructure, along with the other ministries also, I think that is a huge step towards taking our country much, much ahead. And that too, I think it is definitely giving it a lot of gati. Gati is speed, of course. So I think that it will definitely go a long way, Vineet.
All right. Well, Dr. Kohli, Rajalakshmi has made an important point, and so has Pranay. This development and this gati that we've been speaking of, it also has to come with a realization for the citizens as well. You can have good infrastructure, you can have good roads, you can have all the amenities that a state and a nation has to offer, but at the same time educating people on how to use them, educating people on how to basically take care of them is also another important undertaking, because just constructing it, having it there is not all.
Well, absolutely. I think Rajalakshmi made a very, very important point, because, this Gati Shakti business, coordination between ministers. We've seen files being lying here and there, file being tossed away from one ministry to other. Abhi to isme saab sadak khodna hai, power department se approval aayega, abhi to PWD se aayega, wo dusra zila hai, all sorts of things were happening. But apart from the delays, I would like to inform Rajalakshmi also, apart from the delays, the will to do it was also missing. Because if the will to do it was there, then there could have been a Gati Shakti kind of a thing done earlier. I hope Rajalakshmi would agree with me that the will to make the country progress, the will was to make our family progress. The will was to fill up your coffers in Switzerland or other places. I'm sorry, I'm being very direct, but because because this is very evident. I mean, there's no secret about it. And the point which you raised, Beneath, about citizens' duty, yes. You said educating citizens, the word you used, the phrase you used. I think I'm getting a cue from there. I think the education policy also needs to change, because how do you educate people? You should first of all have educated people. If you have most of the people who are using these roads and these infrastructure who are not educated, I'm not being disrespectful to people who come from villages. I'm not being disrespectful for people who are not up to the mark on literacy. I'm not being disrespectful to people who are coming from the poorer sections of the society. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that this educating people or educating the civil part of the society about the government ne mehnat kiya, government has worked hard, spent money to give you or gift you a road like this, or a railway station like this, or an airport like this. I think that education, so what I would suggest, you raise a very important point, Vineet. What I would suggest, along with Gati Shakti, let me throw up a new idea today on your show, that along with Gati Shakti, along with infrastructure push, along with 10 lakhs capex, which has been provided in the budget, an all-time high, I think I would suggest to the government that also launch educating about infrastructure mission from today, because let people, you raise a very pertinent point, let people know that this infrastructure is your dhohar, as they call it in Hindi. This is your asset, Baba. Now education, just like we do financial literacy, we do literacy on so many fronts. I think there should be an infrastructure upkeep literacy programs, Vineet, which should be launched. I am throwing up that idea. And I think when we start educating people that along with these roads being made, along with these infrastructure being done, please, for God's sake, don't spoil them, don't break them, don't litter. I mean, just do everything so that you can make the things look beautiful. That's the difference, because it's not that our country doesn't have any infrastructure at all. I would be wrong if I say that. But the difference between the country you quoted, America or Europe, when you go to these places, you will not find any citizen, littering away. You will not find anybody writing the name Manju left, love soul Sanjay. You will not find those kind of scratches being done on monuments, on roads. So I think that is where, so I would very strongly recommend, Vineet, that for God's sake, launch infrastructure upkeep literacy mission. I'm also giving it a name. I wonder what name government would like to give to this, or what name probably Gautam would suggest, or what name you would suggest, or maybe Raj Lakshmi or Pranay would suggest. But I would put this name in the forefront. Call it by whatever name, it doesn't matter. What is more important is that upkeep or sustainability, as Raj Lakshmi spoke about. I think sustainability is also, because once you made the road, we have seen infrastructure decaying. Haven't we seen, look at when this was done, this used to look so clean, so beautiful. Today, after years, this has decayed. Why? Because there was no upkeep. So there are two kinds of upkeep. One upkeep is from the government side. Of course, now when you finish these infrastructure projects, there are agencies and companies who are allotted the maintenance contract. But no company, no agency can solely maintain the thing unless people who are using it can do. So I think I make this announcement today on your show, Vineet, and I would want this voice, this suggestion to go a little far. बात निकली है तो दूर तक जाएगी. Let this voice reach forward, and let my panelists also endorse it or not endorse it. I'm not sure how far they would like it. And I don't want to cover up this suggestion with another statement, so I'll leave this particular statement here itself.
Absolutely. Great points, Dr. Kohli. We've run out of time as well. We'll take concluding thoughts from the rest of our panelists, starting with Gautam. Gautam?
When you build infrastructure at this rate, maintenance becomes massive. America, we speak of. Now, America built its infrastructure in the 50s, really post the Depression. They really got into high gear for similar reasons, economic reasons. Let us build infrastructure. So they built infrastructure, but it fell apart as the decades went on for a variety of reasons. In India, things fall apart because of the sheer pressure of our population. It is hard to make 1.40 billion people respect these things, and the usage is of a very high nature. In America, it falls apart because maybe the technology used at that time has been superseded. They have cold winters and hot summers. Like what we are doing in Bombay, we used to tar macadam everything. And now we've realized that tar macadam doesn't work in a place where it rains cats and dogs and you've got lots of shallow areas and so on. So they're concreting everything. If we only did that in the first place, we would have done better with the potholes and so on. Potholes in places like the BMC, which is the richest municipality in the world. We're talking about city now, but the same thing applies on the highways, in the ports, anywhere you like to look, the railways and so on. But the hopeful point I'd like to make, Vineet, is, it was often said when the first metro was put in Calcutta, and the way they write on everything and put slogans everywhere and spit pan and so on, people said that in a matter of days they'll trash it. But they didn't. They look after it. And today, if there is any kind of age evident in that metro, it's because it's very old. And that's another thing to look at. Thank you.
Right. Vandalism is a problem. Pranay and Rajalakshmi, quick closing comments, 10 seconds to each one of you. We've run out of time, please.
So Vineet, I would say that any such major investments, these are not just to cater to the users of today, but for posterity. In other words, the government has to keep in mind that it is creating sufficient capacity, not just for today's users, but for the next 50 years. Right? We also witnessed, say, a Morbi bridge collapse. What I'm trying to point out is that the quality of construction is a concern. And of course, with more roads, there should be a greater focus on road safety, whether it is through accidents, traffic jams, etc.
Yes, quickly. All right, Rajalakshmi, quickly, 10 seconds, please. Well, couple of lines, that's it.
Yeah, Vineet, I would say that, when it comes to construction, you cannot have a one-size-fits-all, so you will need a better research to make sure that the construction material is suitable to that place, so that you don't have things like potholes. Another thing is better coordination between the states and the different ministries, in between the states also. And the final thing would be Jan Bhagidari that PM Modi ji always speaks about, which obviously will involve responsibility taken by the citizens themselves to make sure that the infrastructure that the government has built lasts longer than what is expected. So I think that these three things will
all right,
go
great points there, Rajalakshmi. In fact, great points from all of our panel.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.